Hey folks, a little bit of a different video here today. I'm taking a bit of a road trip and I thought instead of doing the normal, live stream vlog type thing that we have done in the past, that I would use this opportunity to kind of just talk to you while I drive and share with you my thoughts on a lot of things. So make sure your seatbelt's on and let's go for a drive. So like I said, we're going on a bit of a road trip today. Yesterday I picked up a hog that my dad, my brother, and I are going 3 ways on. We've decided that with the price of meat going insane, that it's far more economical to go to a local butcher and say, I want a pig or I want a cow, and then just split it. So earlier this year we did that with a cow. I went up to a community about 40 miles north of us called Mellon and got a cow, and got to tell you, best meat I've had in a very long time, hands down. Crushes the grocery store, which you would expect that. And we thought, when I picked the cow up, we had already kind of talked about it. I said, put me down for a pig, and I was expecting not to get the pig quite yet, but hey, I'm not going to argue. So yesterday I picked up the pig and just kind of did my thing, and for the rest of the day, I stored it in a freezer. Thankfully I had enough space. And now today, at least this morning, it's supposed to be really nice, and my dad needs some help with a couple of projects around the house, which is where we're going, and it's also my excuse to deliver the pig. So yeah, that's the idea behind today's drive, is help my dad with a few projects and then deliver the pig. And I guess that kind of fits into a mantra I've always had that I've never really shared with you guys before. I've been a big proponent of, whenever possible, supporting local businesses. And in my mind, getting a pig or a cow from a butcher definitely meets that a lot better than your big chain grocery stores that get their meat from who knows where. So at least from that standpoint, I've got local meat now. Working on local produce. There is a local farmers market that I can get a lot of stuff from. And yeah, so basically what we're trying to do is shift the way we get our food and groceries, well, our groceries, I guess you could say, from the big chain stores to as local as possible. And yeah, this is going to be a little rambly. I do apologize for that. I'm just kind of talking and driving, and as I think of things, I'll share them with you. So go ahead, by the way, if you don't want to sit and stare at my steering wheel and my radio over here bouncing around, go ahead and just, work on something else and listen to me. Think of it as a conversation with a friend, because that's kind of what I'm doing here, is just talking to you as if you were a friend. So yeah, I guess the first thing I would say that I wanted to talk to you about is the importance of buying local. It supports the local economy far more than it does when you go to the big chain stores, because the money stays local. A lot of local companies set up scholarships to help students go to college. They give back to the community. When you give $1 to a local business owner, it's going to pay local wages and local benefits, and probably gets donated to, there's probably donations made to local charities, and the dollar itself stays much more local. It maybe is buying a notebook for the owner's daughter so that they can attend school, stuff like that. So I guess that's part of the reason why I do that, is I would rather see my money stay here than go to China and other companies over, or other countries. If possible, keep the money here. And I know what you're thinking, hold on, you've got a Predator generator. Yes, I do. And if you check some of my videos where people have said that they would rather not give their money to China, I've said, you know, if there was a made in America generator that was affordable and quiet and fuel efficient, basically my Predator, but made in America, I would gladly buy it. But such a thing generally doesn't exist. So I'm a bit of a pragmatist when it comes to that. Yes, I buy local whenever I can, but I also know that there are times I have no choice in the matter and I have to, you know, buy things from multinational companies. It's fine. It's the world we live in. So do what you can to support local businesses. And I guess do what you can leads me into the next part, or the next thing I wanted to talk about rather, and that is the importance of volunteer work. Stephanie and I have volunteered for things pretty much the entire time we've known each other, and the scary thought is we realize that come this November we will have been together as a couple for 22 years, and we will be celebrating our 19th wedding anniversary this fall. So long time that we've been doing this. And what is this, you might ask? It's volunteering. We've both, as amateur radio operators and, you know, otherwise, volunteered for pretty much the entire time we've known each other. And that volunteer work takes a variety of forms. For example, sometimes I go out and do storm spotting, and I report what I'm seeing back to the National Weather Service. People have always asked me, how much does that pay? It doesn't. I invest my own time, my own money into the communications gear, into the truck, into the fuel that I burn. It's 100% a volunteer activity, and you know, the National Weather Service will tell you spotters are the eyes and ears for the last mile between the clouds and the ground. They can't see it. They cannot see all the way down to the ground. And where we live, the radar is so far away, they can't see quite a ways from the clouds to the ground. Often they can't even see the cloud base. So spotters are especially important. So that's one way that we volunteer. In our amateur radio capacity, we have helped out with communications after disasters. I'm thinking a number of years ago, a tornado hit the outside of the city of Merrill, Wisconsin, and we grabbed our radio gear. I was actually out spotting on that storm and saw the wall cloud that eventually produced the tornado. Another ham that's a friend of mine actually saw the storm and saw the tornado. So after we came back into town, when that was over, we switched gears from spotting to emergency communications and manned the local hospitals and shelters, providing communications for the recovery effort after the tornado hit the north side of that town. And it's just something we do. We volunteer at races, especially big races, providing communications, marathons, stuff like that, between checkpoints, and helping keep track of the racers and participants. The Badger State Special Olympics come to mind. There was a race for years known as 24 Hours of 9 Mile that took place at the 9 Mile Recreation Area outside of Wausau, but that was literally a 24-hour race that we sat out in the woods at various checkpoints in that rec area, keeping tabs on people and making sure that everybody was safe and that nobody, because especially out at 9 Mile, there's no cell service. So we had to radio back to the main headquarters at the chalet what we were seeing on the ground. And so yeah, we've volunteered in a lot of different ways. I volunteer with the Forest Service through trail cleanup and helping with signage, obviously through camping, but more specifically being a campground host. I could just hear what you're thinking. Oh, it's not volunteering if you get free camping for the year. You're getting paid. I could see that argument, but part of that is the Forest Service greatly appreciates what we do. We're actually going to cover 2 campgrounds this year because of personnel things, and just because there is such a shortage of volunteers. The Forest Service would gladly love there to be a host in every campground, every single one. And unfortunately, there aren't enough people that'll volunteer. And I'm going to make a video this summer that kind of details what it's like to be a host, because I think there's some misconceptions about the time commitment. Yeah, there are days, especially if I'm mowing, because I haven't mowed in a while, that I'm working, a good portion of the day. But most days I get up, I make my coffee, I get my internet up and running, I take a look at the reservation reports, make sure that, there aren't any new cards I need to put out. I go clean bathrooms, which is basically wiping down the stool, sweeping it out, maybe doing some mopping if it needs it, restocking the toilet paper. I mean, it's not usually a big deal. Sometimes it can be, especially if someone, had a rough night and didn't quite make it. But that's another story. But I mean, really, it's not bad. So I think on a typical day, we put 2.5, maybe 3 hours tops into our hosting duties, outside of, communicating with guests and talking to them and stuff like that. But as far as the actual, things that we do every day, consistently, it's 2 hours, 2.5. And then, we answer questions of guests, where do we find firewood and stuff like that. And clean sites after people leave. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to make a video on what it's like to actually be a campground host, because I know a lot of you out there love to camp. And I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't have to be an all summer commitment. The Forest Service would be thrilled to take you for 2 weeks or a month, whatever you can commit. So you may remember a while ago, and I'll put a link to it somewhere over here, we did a video called Whatever You Do, Volunteer. And that's basically what this goes back to, is there are agencies, it doesn't matter if you don't want to work with the Forest Service, maybe you want to work with somebody else, that's fine, do it. There are so many organizations, the Red Cross comes to mind, Salvation Army, food pantries that are screaming for help. Non-profit organizations that don't have the money to pay but still need the help. And helping others with no expectation of reward can be far more rewarding than mere money. I mean, yes, we get the advantage of living at a campground, at a beautiful campground, I might add, all summer. We get that. That's part of our reward, if you will. But to be honest, I'd do the same thing if we were on a interloop site that, as long as it doesn't flood, I don't care. I love the site we're on. Don't get me wrong. Love the site we're on. Grateful for it. But that's not the main reason we host. We host because it's fun and it's a way to give back. So yeah, buy local, volunteer where you can. And the next thing I guess I want to talk about is being a decent human being. I can hear your eyes rolling. I can hear it. Don't even pretend you're not. There are some eyes rolling going, oh God, here we go. Another lecture on how to be a decent human being. It's not. It really isn't. I'm not going to lecture. I'm not going to, like my COVID rant a couple months ago, I'm not doing that. Being a decent human being means doing what you can to help others. So if it means buying local, you're buying local. If it means volunteering, you're volunteering. If it means picking up someone else's mess, it means picking up someone else's mess. but it also means not leaving a mess. Kind of a double-edged thing there, huh? If you think about it, if everybody picked up after themselves, no one would need to pick up after others. Yeah. I'm just kind of letting that sink into my own head. Because as I'm driving along here, I'm on Highway 70 heading towards Minocqua, in case you need a reference. And I'm probably 2/3 of the way. I'm just past the covered bridge, just past Smith Rapids Road, heading east on 70. And I am seeing garbage like you wouldn't believe in the ditches. Beer cans, soda cans, bottles, plastic bags. And to be honest with you, I find seeing that stuff disheartening because I don't understand the mentality. Because, I mean, right here is the bag for my breakfast that I ate on the way before I started talking to you guys. I could be one of those guys and crumple it up and throw it out. And it's not in my truck, not my problem anymore. It's biodegradable. I've heard that one before. And my answer is everything's biodegradable. Everything. Some things just take longer than others. Yeah, there's a good chance that brown paper bag. I'm actually thinking I'm going to do an experiment with my students and see just how long it actually takes some of this stuff to biodegrade by putting it in some sort of I don't know, I've got to think about it yet, but I want to actually show them what biodegradable actually means, because even that brown bag is going to take a surprisingly long amount of time to decompose, to say nothing of the wax-coated paper that the sandwich was wrapped in. So why would I just throw that into the ditch and leave it there? Now, don't get me wrong, I get it. Sometimes you got to pick up, you've got something in the back of it, and you don't notice that the wind kicks up just right and blows it out of the box. I get that. But there's steps that could be taken there, too. I've got a toolbox on the back of the truck. I could put it in there. Put it in a bigger bag, a bigger container that will prevent it. If you're somebody that throws garbage in the back of your truck, put a Rubbermaid tote with a lid back there. There's ways that you can do that, not to mention it makes it easier to clean out the box of your truck, but there's things that you can do. But I look at these ditches and I think about some of the things that I've seen during Adopt a Highway cleanups in the past. Yes, I've done that too. And I'm just floored. Because I don't understand. I don't understand why. Why is there so much trash in our ditches along our highways? What sort of person does it take? And I know some of you out there, I'm probably preaching to the choir. E-Waste Mike comes to mind. I think he's a channel subscriber. And if he is or isn't, I'll have a link to him down below. He does a lot of electronics cleanup and really a cool guy. I'll put a picture into this video right here of what I found in the dumpster out at Black Lake when we were there last. Somebody went out into the campground, and they had to have carried it quite a ways or used a wagon or something because the gate was still shut. And they dumped computers into the dumpsters out at Black Lake because they didn't want to pay the recycling fee. It's part of the cost of ownership of a computer is paying to get rid of it. The garbage. So that's, I guess, what I'm getting at when it comes to being a decent human being is why do people do things that make more work for others? Where does the lack of caring about things come from? And I don't know how else to put it other than that, other than why don't people care? They don't care about each other. They don't care about the environment. It's about what's easy for them. And that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Because, I mean, you could make the argument that I wasn't raised that way. That I wasn't raised to be selfish and to think only of myself. And you're probably partly right there. And Stephanie and I have done everything we can to instill those same morals and values into our kids of, you know, don't make things harder for somebody else and help where you can. But it's something I don't understand. I mean, the concept of leave no trace is so tied into not just it being an environmental steward and taking care of the planet we have, but the concept of being a decent person, that I'm lost. You know, I guess help me out here, guys. Down in the comments below, tell me what you think it is that causes people to have a complete and absolute lack of caring and respect for the world around them and those that they share this planet with. I'm reminded of a couple of songs that came out when I was a kid. One of them is by Alabama, Pass It On Down. And the chorus is, leave some blue up above us, leave some green on the ground. It's only ours to borrow, let's save some for tomorrow. Leave it and pass it on down. And that song right there talks about environmental stewardship and recognizing that we need to share this planet with not only ourselves, everybody that's alive right now, but the people that are yet to come, our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids. It's just, like I said, it's just foreign to me because I don't understand why people think that they can just do the things they do. And then the other song is, I believe, Whitesnake, When the Children Cry. And that song doesn't speak so much about environmentalism and stewardship as it does, how do I want to put this, the side of being a decent human being that seems to be lost on society today. It talks about division and hatred. It talks about I'll leave links to both of the songs down below, but if I remember that most of the chorus of When the Children Cry properly, it's when the children cry, let them know we tried, because when the children sing, then the new world begins. And I think the first verse, if I remember correctly, says, little child, dry your crying eyes. How can I explain the fear you feel inside? Because you were born into this evil world where man is killing man and no one knows just why. And like I said, I think of that song and I listen to that song, and it reminds me that there's another generation that's coming that has to deal with the fallout of everything that's happening and everything that has happened. Just like we are dealing with the fallout of everything that's happened before us. The world is a lot more complicated than people make it out to be. It's not good versus evil. It's not red versus blue. It's not us versus them. It's not yes or no, right or wrong. perspectives. There's so many levels that go into things. And sometimes part of understanding is recognizing that you can't understand someone else's perspective. Part of trying to work through something and help somebody and being a decent human being is recognizing that, look, you know what? I have no idea what you've gone through and what you're going through because I haven't lived your life. I haven't been in your shoes. And because of that, there's no possible way that I can relate. But I still recognize you as a person with value. And I want to help. A person with value. Value. What can we say about value? Maybe that's what it all boils down to in terms of the garbage I'm seeing in the ditch now, the way people treat each other, the messes that are left behind in the campgrounds, the rationalization of why people do things by saying, oh, it's biodegradable or whatever excuse they come up with. Value. Not values. Well, values play a part of it, but value. As I'm sitting here thinking about this, talking this through with you, I think a lot of the things that are happening in the world today are because people don't see the value in not only each other, but probably themselves as well. And everything around them. I've heard, oh, it's just a frog. It's just a snake. It's just a thing. He's not my friend. I don't care. Oh, they're a Democrat. Oh, they're a Republican. Until you can learn to see the value in everything around you, are you able to be a decent human being? Are you able to recognize that the way you treat others has an impact? I might have just figured out how to put the camera in a way that maybe will get it to stop slipping around. But as I was saying, until you can learn to recognize the value of others and things around you, can you really actually be a decent human being? Do the words be a decent human being fall deaf on those that don't actually value others? And that's where values come in. Because if you don't value something, then chances are your values make it, your values in terms of how you interact with it and everything change. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this one out as I talk to you. Deep thoughts during today's drive as we get closer to Minocqua. I'm sure you've heard the road noise change. That's because I'm just outside of Minocqua and it's time to slow down. So let's work through a hypothetical together. Get a quick swig of coffee here because this is going to require a little brain power. So let's say you don't see the value in the effort that I put into Black Lake as the host of Black Lake. You're someone that you went camping to have a good time. And rightly so. I mean, why wouldn't you want to have a good time? But you went camping primarily to have a good time, not to appreciate nature. You're one of the ones that you got on site and you started drinking and eating chips and playing cornhole all day with music blasting. After dinner, you scrape your plate into the woods because it's biodegradable. You throw your paper plate, your wax-coated paper plate, I might add, into the fire pit along with some tin foil and maybe a couple of beer bottles because, they'll burn, they'll melt. Who cares? What value are you showing? What appreciation and what values are you showing for one, but what value have you now placed on the work that I have to do to clean up after you? Because your green pepper or your noodle or the eggs from breakfast, the egg shells, all that, technically biodegradable, will eventually break down. But do you know what's going to happen before that actually occurs? Animals. Animals are going to come into the campground. And they're going to eat those. And they're going to come back looking for more. And don't get me wrong, I got nothing wrong with a squirrel, chipmunk, birds. Those sorts of animals are fine in a campground. But raccoons? I don't want a raccoon just outside my tent because you know what he's going to do if he doesn't find food in the woods? He's going to try and get in my cooler. That bear that came and ate your scrambled eggs, he's going to tear things apart looking for something to eat. The action of throwing things into the woods, of not placing value on my effort to have to clean it up, but also just how clean the woods is, and just saying it's biodegradable. Has had a chain reaction that now there's a problem bear at the campground, and I'm not saying there isn't, but hypothetically, that has to be dealt with. And depending on how far down this rabbit hole you want to go, we could potentially looking at be looking at injuries. We could be looking at fiscal impact of having to have the DNR come out and trap and relocate that bear, or potentially having to shoot the bear because it's causing so much trouble. All because people decided to just say it's biodegradable and throw their food scraps into the woods or their paper plates. So that's one lens we could look at that through. Another lens we could look at is the work that you created for someone else. Because you elected not to throw your garbage away properly, someone else has to go in and clean it up. As someone that's had to go clean up soggy scrambled eggs in the woods after it rained, I can tell you that's not fun. It's kind of gross. As someone that has to wade through the pickers looking for the garbage, I can tell you it's not fun. As someone that has to go through your fire pit and pick out the tin foil and maybe the green pepper that you threw in there and the bottle and the eggshells, it's disgusting and time consuming. So think about it. What value have you put on me as a person, as a volunteer, someone that's not paid? Is that really being a decent human being? I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. And I'm sure most of you don't think it is either. Ugh, a little bit of a rough road here. Alright, so I'm about 20 minutes from my destination, and I feel like we've had a good talk. Not to mention my phone is starting to yell at me that it's overheating, so I should probably let it cool down. But I guess I'll leave you guys with these final thoughts. Actions speak louder than words. It's cliche. We've all heard it 100 times. What do your actions say about you? I want my actions to say that I'm a decent person that cares about others. I want my actions to say that I see the value in others and all things around me. I want my actions to be a good reflection of my values and to be a good model for the future generations, for my kids, for my grandkids, my great-grandkids someday. And no, I don't have any grandkids yet. What do you want your actions to say about you? A lot of you probably are thinking the same thing I am. There's probably quite a few people that have started watching this video that haven't made it this far that would say they don't care. They don't care what others think about them, and I get that. I don't really care what others think about me either. But when I look in the mirror, I want to be proud of the person I see. I want to know that the person I see in the mirror is a decent human being that cares about others, that will do what they can when they can. Someone that'll wave at a random person that waves at you. You never know. That simple act that you just saw me waving. And I was waving at somebody that waved at me, someone I didn't even know. That simple act may have made their day. So when you look in the mirror, who do you want to see? What do you want that person to be? Because ultimately, that's what's in your control. That's what's in your boat. I'll leave you with a story that I heard during during a pep assembly, or not pep assembly, but all the students together. And, of course, the teachers were sitting in among the students, and the principal was talking about being a welcoming environment and stuff like that. And he told us a story that he had read in a book about a reporter who was sent to cover the Olympics. Now, this reporter actually was kind of upset because he was sent to report on some of the boating stuff, and that took him far away from where the action was in Olympic Atlantic City. And he was a little sour about that. He was really upset because he didn't get to be where he wanted to be. He didn't get the assignment he wanted. He had to go and cover the people that were rowing boats. And he was really sour about that. And he, doing a half-hearted interview with one of the athletes, asked him, well, what do you do if it starts raining? And the athlete replied, that's outside my boat. Well, obviously that wasn't the answer the reporter was expecting. He was expecting the athlete to say something like, well, yeah, that kind of stinks, or blah, blah, blah. But the athlete replied, that's outside my boat. And the reporter said, well, what do you mean? What does that mean that's outside my boat? And the athlete said, the weather is outside of my control. It's outside my boat. The only thing that I have any control over is myself and what's inside my boat. So I can choose to be upset because it's raining. Or I can choose to push myself even harder to beat my previous best times, to be the best that I can be at all times and control what I can control, and not worry about that what I can't. So you ask me, what do I do when it's raining? The rain is outside of my boat. It's outside of my control. I can't do anything about it, so it doesn't bother me. I don't let it bother me. It doesn't affect me. I can control my reaction to the fact that it's raining. So I choose to go on rowing and to be the best that I can and to give it my all every day. Because what happens outside my boat is outside of my control. But what I can control, I make sure it is my absolute best all the time. And that story has really had an influence on how I think about things. So yeah, I get it bothers me when I find those partially eaten, soggy scrambled eggs in the woods. Yes, it bothers me. Yeah, I may make a rant video. I try not to. I will tell you that I'm still trying to perfect this not inside my boat as well. And maybe I need to just make more educational based videos about, hey, this is what I found in the woods and this is why it's not a good idea. That would be controlling what's inside my boat, is my reaction. My saying, hey, this is why you shouldn't do this. I want to show you something. So the video we made on the unwritten rules of camping would be an example. We explained why you do things that you do instead of ranting about them. The person I am in the mirror, the person that I see in the mirror, is inside my boat. What others see and think of me is not. So why should I worry about it? Why should I let what's outside my boat bother me? When all that matters is when I look in the mirror, I see someone that I'm proud of. That when my kids look at me, they see someone that they're proud of and that they are happy to emulate. That I impart good values on my children, which are inside my boat, to the best of my ability. That I do everything I can to be a decent human being. And as I'm wrapping this up in my head, thinking about this, I'm recognizing that this whole discussion we've had has been about being a decent human being. It's been about controlling what's inside your boat buying local and supporting local businesses is inside your boat. You can do that. And it's something you can do that'll help others in your local community. Volunteering is something that you can do that's inside your boat. Helping others with no expectation of reward is inside your boat. It's something that you can do. Cleaning up after yourself and others is something you can do. It's inside your boat. Making sure that you leave things cleaner than you found it is inside your boat. Controlling who you see in the mirror is inside your boat. So control what you can. Let the person that you see in the mirror be someone that you're proud of. Help where you can. Be a decent human being. And don't worry about what's outside your boat. Empathy, kindness, compassion, understanding. And 10 minutes ago, I told you I was wrapping it up because I was 20 minutes from my destination, and now I'm 10 minutes from my destination. Thankfully, my phone has not stopped recording yet, but it is definitely not happy. So I'm going to leave you guys. Thank you for sticking with me as long as you did. And let me know down in the comments if you like this format, because there's a lot of times, because of where we live, that I'm driving for an hour or two to get somewhere, to get something. I would love to talk to you and tell you stories, think about what's on my mind. Maybe give me some topics that we can talk about, because I've got nothing better to do, and I'd rather share the time with you guys than talk to myself. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind listening to the radio at times, but a lot of times there's nothing on the radio to listen to. So down in the comments below, give me some possible things we could talk about before. Make sure you hit that like button, thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I promise I won't cry. Subscribe, ring the bell. You guys know the drill. Control what's inside your boat, and don't worry about what's outside of it. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you at our next destination, wherever that is. Bye-bye.